So I'd like to welcome you all to this evening session sponsored by the Conseil Scolaire Catholique Providence about online digital citizenship. So we're going to be looking at today what kind of things your children are doing online, what are the risks associated with them, and what you can do as a parent in order to minimize those risks, and like discussions you should be having with your child. But before we go any further, we're just going to take a minute to say a quick prayer and to acknowledge the indigenous communities in whose land we find ourselves. So, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, loving God, you are the giver of all we possess, the source of all of our blessings. We thank and praise you. Thank you for the gift of our children. Help us to set boundaries for them and yet encourage them to explore. Give us the strength and courage to treat each day as a fresh start. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and we will begin this event by acknowledging that we are meeting on an Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Long before today, as we gather here, there have been Aboriginal people who have been the stewards of this place. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. Thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dan Anglais. I'm the curriculum coordinator for JK to 12. And with me tonight is Brigitte Gault, who is the curriculum consultant for JK to 6, and Shelley Belez, who's our system principal for grade kindergarten to 6. So I'd also like to mention that you'll probably notice that we're not IT people. I am not a technician. I am not a internet security specialist. I'm a teacher. I've got 15 years experience in the classroom, as well as a good time as a vice principal of a school. And I've also got 2 young boys that are in high school right now. So we're going to be speaking mostly on terms of like philosophy behind this. We won't be getting into a whole lot of deep technical stuff. We will keep things quite general, because if we say like, oh, this are the steps you have to go through to block this setting in this software, that's Googleable. Anybody can Google that kind of stuff. Whereas the interest in the technology changes so quickly that if we show you how to do it with one, you'll have to Google it for 4 or 5 other ones. So we're going to talk to you about what interests the children. We know that it's hard to keep up to date with what the different software and apps that your children are using online. These technologies evolve constantly, and this is also going to change depending on how old your child is. As they mature, their interests will change, and depending on what region they are, what school they're in, their interests are going to change as well. So we're going to be looking at different age groups and what the principal interests are for various age groups. The very first one is the group of children, so 5 to 7, and then we're going to look at the teeny boppers, what they call them. They're the 8 to 12 years old, or the tweeners, and then we're going to look at teenagers, and AKA the ones that know it all, because by the time they're a teen, they've seen it all, heard it all. They're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. So we're going to be looking at some of their interests and some of the risks that are associated with their interests. Now, first group of children we're going to be looking at 5 to 7. At this stage in development, kids just want to have fun. They love fun activities. They want to be independent. They tend to think in the here and now, but they also tend to follow simple rules when put forth by adults. So it's a really good time to get into good routines with your kids. So one of the things that interests them a lot at that age group is games. So there are thousands of games out there, millions of games out there. Some of them are really good. They're really educational games. If you're looking at things like Math Zorbits, which is a software that the board buys for every child in our school, we have access to this Math Zorbits. And those are really educational games. But there are others that are just there for fun. It's really important to allow so that your child chooses games that are appropriate for his age group. Like I know a lot of kids that are 10, 12 years old that are playing Grand Theft Auto. They shouldn't be playing that at that age. They really shouldn't. It is so you have to be really careful as a parent as to what games are your child playing right now. So what are the risks associated with playing games online games? The biggest risk is that they can be redirected. So as you're playing your game, the kids are collecting stars or whatever, money and coins or whatnot in the game, and then there's this pop-up that shows up. And so often kids at that age don't realize that when they click on that little bubble that came up, they're going to a different website. They're completely leaving the game they're playing now and they're going elsewhere. And sometimes they don't know where they're going. So it has become a routine for your child to not click on just stuff that pops up. The other thing that can pop up is in-app purchases. So like one of the things you have to watch for when you're actually like trying out a game with your child is, are there in-app purchases? I know a lot of parents that suddenly got a bill for hundreds of dollars because their kid played Candy Crush and spent a whole bunch of real money on like extra lives and perks from Candy Crush. So how do you stop this? So recommendation is, first of all, you got to start playing the game. Make it a habit so that when your son or your daughter or whatnot wants to play a game, they're like, Mom, Dad, can we play this game together? And then you guys can play the game together. You can familiarize yourself with it. And then you can see if this is a game that's acceptable for your child. Sometimes it'll be a hard discussion to have where, oh, you know what? I know this game looks like fun, but maybe we should find another one because this one's got some stuff that wouldn't be really good for you. And that gets them into the habit of like discussing it and explaining why this isn't a good game for you. And so that creates a dialogue with your child, and they're open to it at that age. They're great for looking, and they're accepting that their parents actually know stuff. What do you also look for in the game? You look for if they have a chat. If the game has a chat and you want to know if you can disable it or enable that chat feature. So that's another thing you want to look at. And the third is advertising. And make sure that there aren't a bunch of pop-ups from different companies sending them all over the place when they're playing the game. Other good rule of thumb is create your own child's username and password. Do not let them choose their own password, create their own username. That way you control what's installed where. If your child wants to install a game on your phone or on his app, or he should already be asking you to do that, and you guys should be discussing it beforehand. Really important thing to discuss with your child is to say, if something happens online that makes you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't even have to be anything bad. It just, you saw something that you thought was weird, or this like conversation seemed weird to you, come talk to you. Come talk to your parents. So that's really, really important, that if anything uncomfortable happens, that they should come talk to you right away. And let them know that they're not going to get in trouble for it. They're not going to lose access to the iPad because they accidentally found themselves on another site. Explain to them that, like, you can come tell me these things. It's really important to get in this habit when they're in this young age. And also get them used to coming to see you when they want to play a new game. Like, not just go online and go to the Play Store and download it themselves, whatever they want, whenever they want. That when they want to play something new, they come talk to you, and you guys are going to discuss it and figure out together what you guys want to play. What other interests do they have at that age? One of them is search engines. Kids love to Google stuff, anything, why is the sky blue? Why is the sun yellow? What's going on? Why are frogs jumping across the road? So anyway, so they love to Google stuff. And so first thing you should do is make sure that they're in a public place. Like, you don't want them to have access to their computer in their bedroom or whatnot. They're in the kitchen and they're Googling stuff. And the second is to activate a safe search, especially for young children. They can happen upon a bunch of different stuff that you don't really want them to. And it's accidental at this age. And let them know that if they accidentally fall on something they shouldn't be like looking at, to let you know, to tell you about it. You're not going to get mad at them. You're just going to show them how that doesn't happen in the future. The other thing that we find a lot is YouTube. Like, kids love YouTube. They'll watch videos on this, that, and everything else for hours and hours on end, which is not really a good idea. So you should really be careful of what the kids are watching as far as videos. Videos have a certain amount of filtering, depending on what platform you're using. There are certain filters in place, but they're not the same filters as you have with television. There is a lot of really inappropriate stuff going on in videos. And by inappropriate, I don't mean anything necessarily sexual or anything like that, but there's a lot of people doing really like questionable choices about what they're doing with their bicycles or with their various situations where they place themselves just to get likes. And so you've got to really be careful what kind of videos your child is looking at, because the kid that takes a skateboard behind the car for at 80 kilometers an hour, well, it might seem like a good idea to him, but you should be having a discussion with your child. Well, that's not necessarily a reasonable or logical thing that you should be doing. So You should get your child used to consulting you before watching videos, and you also got to be careful with the autoplay. When you're watching videos on YouTube, there's always the autoplay at the end, so that after the video is done, it automatically plays another one. And depending on the category of video you're watching, that will decide what the next video will be. And so your child can end up watching a bunch of videos that aren't really appropriate for his age group based on those autoplay settings. All this information that we're getting here, a lot of it was pulled from the protectkidsonline.ca website. So if you're interested and you want to have more information about a certain age group, we recommend that you go on there. They have a really good site, and they really go into detail about a whole bunch of these things. So we highly recommend that. Next group of age is children that are 8 to 12 years of age. Children of this age invest more time in games, and they really take them seriously. So that's all about which one of their buddies got the highest score, what game are you playing, what level are you on. And it's also an age group where they get into deeper relationship with their peers, and they have a certain need for privacy. They also tend to test their parent the boundaries. They want to find out where that line, and they will push to find out where that line is. And so that's the limits. And the other thing that's important at that age is peer acceptance and belonging to a group. And they start to really have the group has a big influence on their personal image and also on their behavior as such, especially when they get towards that 11, 12 years of age group there. One of the things that they find at this age group, at this level, is that, well, when they're a little bit younger, they find, wow, it's really cool to watch videos and see things online and whatnot. At this point, they're like, wow, what even cooler is if I can make my own videos and then get other people to like my videos. So quite often we find that kids that are in grade 5, 6, 7, and 8 are starting to have their old cell phones from their older brother and sister or their mom and dad's old cell phone, and they have access to it. And quite often they don't have any kind of internet access, or the SIM card's been removed and whatnot, but they do have access to the camera. So they start filming stuff. And so one thing they have to realize is that any image that's taken with a video camera can easily find itself elsewhere. It's really, really easy for it to be shared and be broadcast all over the place. So what are the risks associated? Well, one of the biggest problems we have is there are a bunch of apps out there that lead users to believe that anything they do will disappear after a couple of seconds. So you take a video, you share it with your friend, boom, it disappears, it never happened. Well, that isn't true. Yes, they'll say yes, but they'll get a notification if they take a screenshot. Well, they will, but they won't if it's their buddy standing beside them with their phone who's taking a picture of it. So as a vice principal, I don't know how many arguments I had to deal with stuff that started online through Snapchat. And it's a discussion group. Quite often they have a group, and then one person says something about the next. The next thing I know, I've got all the kids in my office with their phones showing me the snaps of the argument that took place that led to this fight outside at lunch. So these are things that, like, they say that disappear right away, but it doesn't. So they have to realize that as soon as you put something in a digital format whatsoever, it's there for good. It can always find its way to any other place. And that includes text messages, chats, photos, videos, any of those things. If you put it down in writing, it's there forever, and it can find its way a bunch of places. So what are the recommendations? Well, first of all is you have to familiarize yourself with these devices. I have a Snapchat account. I don't use it at all, but I play with it. And my son's on my Snapchat. I'm on his Snapchat, and he's on my Snapchat. And just so I could play with the settings and find out how do you do to limit the audience to this application. Any application, most of the applications have a way to limit the audience. Who's your friend? Who can see your posts? So find out how to change those settings. It's incredible how many people I get onto their personal social media accounts, and it's wide open. Everyone in the world can see everything that's going on in their lives. It's just wide open. You have to learn to put settings and change the settings and make sure that only friends can see the stuff that you're posting online. Should kids at this age have social media accounts? No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't have a social media account at this age. But you know what? Most of them do. So that's the thing. So yes, you can block a lot of it, but in our experience, when you block it, kids find a way around it. That is the thing. You put a block in place, they will find a way around it, and they sure won't be telling you about it. So that's why in certain circumstances, it's better to have this dialogue open with your child and make a decision together of what you're going to be doing. Points to discuss. So you should have regular discussions with your kids about the content that they're viewing online, not just the stuff that they're posting, but also the stuff that they're viewing. Have them show you the crazy cat videos. Have them show you the crazy possum that was in the garbage this morning. Like, let them show you that, and that way you can have a discussion about it. Just as an aside, we found a possum this morning in my garbage, and that's why I ended that. It was fun. Anyways, it's not on social media. But anyways, make sure your children know that you can talk to you about these things, and without the fear of losing the computer privileges. So they should be talking about you. And talk to them about the reasoning. Like, why are you sharing this? Do you really need to share this with everyone in the world, what you're doing for breakfast? And so there's discussions you can have about what's important to share, what's worth sharing, and what isn't. The other thing is that once an image is published, like once you send that tweet, once you hit that send button, it is out of your control where it's going to go. You lose all control as soon as you hit send. It can go anywhere. And if you think, well, I trust this person, you might trust this person, but do you trust everyone this person knows? And that's the thing that's like, you have to be really, really careful that once you hit send, you make sure that you'll be willing to say that or put that on a poster and walk around the street with this giant poster saying, this is what I said, and go in front of grandma's house and go in front of grandpa's house and have them see the sign, and that you're okay with that. And if you're cool with that, with everyone seeing that, then maybe you can post that, but you should think about it. They should also realize the legal implications of certain photos. So teenage boys thinks it's really funny to take a picture of his buddy with his pants down. Ha ha ha, it's hilarious. He's got this on his phone. 2 years later, he's 18. He's got a picture on his phone of a child in semi-clothed. Kids don't think about that when they're in high school. But when you're 18, 19, that can have legal repercussions. So these are the things that you have to think about when you're making these choices. The other thing you have to think about is, what are other people in the future going to think about your pictures? So most employers now will consult social media page of their employees. And if they see things on there that they don't like, it could cost you your job. If they see things on there that you did 10 years ago, it can still cost you your job. Just think of everything that's going on right now on social media about people that are in the news that made these questionable choices 15, 20 years ago, and it comes back to haunt them now where they are. So a whole lot of thought that has to go into what you're putting online. Other things, other interests that they might have at that age are apps. Once they get into the phone, they want to load their apps. They want to put a bunch of games, whatever their buddies are playing. And so you have to be careful of the geolocation services that are integrated in a lot of apps. They tell everyone where you are, what you're doing. And so that's can be dangerous as far as everyone to know where you are. Apps should only be installed from the trusted sites, so iTunes and Google Play. Some people will block these for their kids. They'll block them. And then so what happens then is the kids will start side loading their games or whatnot. So they're going to go into download APKs, and that's when you get into viruses and stuff that's going to blow up your phone. So you should always just download directly from trusted sites. And be aware of in-app purchases. It's really, really easy to spend real money really quickly playing a game. So the games are engineered to get you to spend real money when you're playing it. So the kids have to be aware of that it's really easy and that that's real money you're playing with. The other thing that really interests kids, especially is online games. There's a lot of games like Fortnite, Minecraft, etc., that have in-app microphones and chats, like through online chats. And quite often those discussions aren't monitored. So even though the games are supposed to be played by kids, quite often there's a whole following that are adults. So if you go to Fortnite, you'll see that a lot of the players are in their 20s and 30s, and not necessarily little kids that are 12 years old. And some of the discussions that are having in these online play aren't appropriate for 12, 13-year-olds. So you should be talking to your child, like, what happens if you end up in a group and you put the chat on and there's these people having a discussion that's way out there? Well, you've got a couple of options. One is you can turn off the chat completely. Most games allow you to completely disable the online chat. 2, you can stop playing the game. And 3, you can report it. So there are a bunch of different options that are available to you if stuff that's going on in the chat is inappropriate. And once again, reiterate that make sure the games are age appropriate. There's a rating on games. The rating is there for a reason. So the next group are teenagers, otherwise known as those that know everything. And like this is a group of an age group where the kids are greatly influenced by their peers. They can be really, really mature, but sometimes they tend to overestimate their abilities. They need to feel accepted. They need to be part of a group, and they also need to develop their own identity. So once again, talking about social media again, because that's something that will come back again and again and again. They spend a lot of time on social media, browsing their friends' videos, liking their photos, posting memes. It's so important for your child to know the advantages and disadvantages that come with a public forum. Everyone always thinks of the negatives of social media, but it's possible for a child or for a teenager to build a beautiful portfolio that when the job market or the university go consult this social media profile, they're going to find a ton of great things about him. They're going to find how he was, integrated, how he was implicated in his community, how he was working for community services, how he was helping his neighbor shovel the snow. Anything that looks great, you can put it on your profile, and you can make it a positive experience when people look at your profile. There are, however, some risks as well. Once again, once the message is sent, it's out of your control. So you have to be able to familiarize yourself with social media platforms, figure out how information is shared, figure out how to adjust the privacy controls, and what kind of information you need to open an account. So to open a Facebook account, you have to be at least a certain age. And so in the policies, it tells you exactly what that age is, and that's what you should be respecting. You should also know how to report inappropriate posts or tags. So if someone posts something on Facebook and you're like, oh my God, that's like so not true, not right, you can actually report them. And then they will pull it down and they will block that person's account. You have to know how to do that. And if you manage to have your teen's password, nicknames, and internet friends, well, this is really the part where all that work you did when they were younger, this is where it pays dividends. Because if you're already a friend with your child on Facebook, then you know what his internet friends are, and you can have these discussions with them. So it's well worth it to invest the time when they're younger so that you can reap the benefits when they get a little older. Really points to point out, it's getting to the point where you go on any Facebook forum and you're going to see just people screaming at each other and saying stupidities to each other. Explain to them, to teenagers, that like it's illegal to threaten someone, both online and in your life. The threats that you made online are legal, can have legal repercussions. And if they say, well, those kids aren't even in my school, it doesn't matter. As a VP, I had several discussions with VPs of other schools in the area about online discussions between students in both of our schools. And quite often police got involved. That is just a reality of like, you cannot do stuff online. You cannot threaten, you cannot, harass people online without there being legal repercussions. And the police have ways of finding out what these discussions were. So even if it's on Snapchat, they can have access to that. Remind them that like privacy does not exist on the internet. Once it's a public place. Once something is online, it has become public matter and everyone has access to it, even if you think they don't. Explain the importance of qualities of a healthy relationship. Like, what does a healthy relationship look like between two people in a school, between two classmates, between two colleagues? Well, that also applies to the online environment. What does a healthy relationship look like online? And the last but not least, probably the most important thing, is be there for your teenager. You have to maintain an environment conducive to an open dialogue. You got to be able to talk to them. If you guys can talk and chat, and when things happen online, they'll come talk to you. If you can have a discussion with them about it, quite often you'll be able to avoid huge problems just by having that discussion between the two of you. So I'd like to thank you very much for having joined us tonight. If there are any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat right now. We'll be happy to answer them for you. We'll also be throwing a survey in there. So if you want to take a couple of minutes to answer the questions on that survey, it would be much appreciated. So I'm going to grab a drink because I've been talking nonstop for 27 minutes. And if anybody has any questions. So I'm not seeing any questions. So I will wish all of you a excellent evening. And if ever you have any other questions, feel free to send us a quick email. Our emails are on the screen right now, so you can send us an email. We'll be happy to answer them for you.